Hey there, this is Dawn here. Just wanted to share something that's been in my awareness the last week or so. I'm filming this on the 22nd of March, so a few days after the Spring Equinox, March 2017. So there is a topic that I have really, in all honesty, I have such distaste for this part of our reality here that I don't like to talk about it much at all. And that is sort of the level of control and manipulation that goes on in the collective. And now this can show up in a lot of different forms in terms of systemic evil, if you will, or if you don't want to call it evil, systemic, the perpetuation of anything that is working against love and light and in our reality. And typically that shows up in structures and organizations and these large societal structures that we have created. The obvious ones being government, education, any sort of system implemented by government, corporations, and other groups and organizations, both known and to everyone, and those that are operating in sort of at a level of secrecy. So, I personally have such a distaste for that, sort of thing in our world that I typically try to avoid talking about it. There are, it's been clear for quite some time, probably for a long time, but it's been clear, I think, to many that there are these sorts of agendas at play. And so the question, is, okay, what do you do when you see it at play and want nothing of it? When you think that you are trapped within it, and indeed there are, I believe, people who do get ensnared in this. And I do believe there are traps set. I don't like that. I just don't even like to go there, because I am a believer in personal freedom and in that we have come here, that we are great spirits in these bodies, each one of us, and that we have come here to shine brightly as souls, to remember the whole of who we are, and then to walk forward in that wholeness and to pave the way, open up the way, create a new way, a whole new way forward together, a whole new way of seeing ourselves, a whole new way of being ourselves, and a whole new way of freeing ourselves. And to me, the purpose of why at the root, we all have individual things to bring forward here. But at the root, the reason that we are all here is to experience ourselves as a soul and to know God. The word I like to use is God, but to know the fullness of life itself and to experience it and to receive that life and then to give it and to share it. So when we find ourselves, so we're here and we're experiencing life, and yet we see these games would be the surface level of what's happening, but it can become apparent the more awake you are. It can become quite apparent that the levels of deceit, deception, and again, control and manipulation go very, very deep. And I am personally grateful that it's been called naive and gullible and vulnerable before, but I personally think that there is a stream of purity and innocence that I've been fortunate enough to hold on to, and not always. Not that I've always acted with purity and with innocence. And certainly not that I have seen the world in that light, but I have always known that to be who we are, and who I am, even when I've lost it for quite some time, I've still known the truth of that, and I've never discarded that. And I think that that's really assisted me. And so I'm making this video, and you can tell I don't like talking about it, right? Like, I'm making this video though because if there's anyone out there who somehow feels that their actions, their integrity, their what they believe in, who they think they are, all of that has been compromised in some way. And perhaps, there have been choices that have been made, and somehow thinks that because of that, they are trapped, stuck, and that the ramifications of suddenly being who they are, who they know themselves on a deep level to be, that the ramifications of that are too great because of the ripple effect of what they perceive to be the damage from that. Now, that there may be a very real cost, right? There may be a very real cost for certain individuals. And in some sense, there is for all of us. When we choose the path of greater awareness, greater self-awareness, and a return to our whole self and our soul self, and then if we truly choose to walk in the way of wholeness, that's what I call it, sorry about that, when we choose to walk forward in the way of wholeness, and when we choose to leave behind all that does not serve, to include individuals, groups, and systems and structures that do not support us, and in fact, we may be shocked to find as we begin to awaken, some of us, that there have been, whatever that is, whether that's the will, the individual choices and will of individuals who are colluding with one another, or whether that is some sort of systemic, energy that feeds upon itself and then spreads. So whatever, I'm not even going to get into that, what the root of all of that is. I have, and my beliefs have shifted somewhat on that, and it's very complex, and so I'm not even going to get into that. But wherever we see that we have, kind of fallen prey to something else, well, that's not the truth of who we are. And whatever we think the negative ramifications of truth would be, to include exposure, and the revelation that, to others that we are not who we have said we were, and that there was some level of pretense and or of, in some cases, deliberate deception. And when we decide, though, when we're in that point, and we compromise ourselves because we believe our lives have been compromised, and that would somehow affect our families and hurt people, etc., etc. But what we're doing, see, in that point when we're making that choice, that's the intention of all of this control and manipulation. That's the intention of it, to keep us in some sort of to keep us under control. I mean, to keep us under the veil of a clouded darkness that keeps us believing that because of these mistakes, and in some cases, indeed, we have acted in ways that go against who we knew ourselves to be, but that is used as suppression and oppression. And there is, again, I do not like talking about these things, okay? I really don't. But there is a level of deliberate deception in terms of what some people refer to as, mind control, or other agendas that are, layered. And it's all, so here's the good news. Here's the good news. It's March 22nd, 2017. And something just shifted pretty big this year, and it's been a long time coming, and it's all going to naturally in time fall away. I don't know how that's going to unfold. I wish I did in some ways, but then again, you know, I personally long for the day, and I do think this is coming, because we are creating together, co-creating, those of us who are operating, who know who we are and the truth of that, and that at our core, we are all light and life and love. And that does not require, by the way, that it's the opposite of pushing away what we think is dark, evil, sin, darkness, perversion, all of those things that we think like we have to hide somehow. And I'm not suggesting that we all just kind of, you know, like make a laundry list of here's all the bad stuff I've done. No, I'm not suggesting that. But what I am suggesting is that you just realize that the truth of who you are is not that. It's not those choices that you made. The truth of who you are, and you will know this. You will know this at your core, in your heart, in your soul, in your gut, you know, wherever it is you feel it in your body. You will know it, because only love is real, and only love is true, and love can survive the longest lie, and love stands the test of anything, of time, of delusion, of illusion. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that here. But the good news that I was starting to say is that it's all in the process of being exposed for what it is. And many people, even those who have not been on, who have not chosen a way of awakening, see that. And there is a new day dawning, and there is the revelation of a mystery, that I like to call it, but there is also a reckoning. And it is imperative that if you have been someone who has been teeter-tottering, and, you know, kind of, you know, coming in and out of this, and in terms of, you know, your love and light, and you know that there's more, and you know that you have been hiding from yourself, and you know that, and so what you realize is that you are who you are, and you know the truth, and yet you're still scurrying around to, you know, like, keep everything in order. And some people, not everyone, okay, this video is not implying that everyone is, you know, in this massive trap of deception and being manipulated and controlled, but some people are. And the reason that that is still happening, the only reason that sustains that sort of a structure, which is self-limiting, the only thing that sustains that is each individual playing into that, each individual believing that this truth that they know, that who they are, is somehow less than and subject to something outside of themselves, and in particular, running these looping patterns of fear, and essentially they are dimming that truth and that light to sustain a lie. This is, and the lie looks good. The lie has in the past, you know, most certainly through history, been made to look very alluring. And some souls understand at some point, and I have been one to some degree in this, understand that they may have at some point in this life or in some other incarnation or in some larger way, they don't really understand that their soul somehow has at times supported such structures. What I am aware of that has happened for some individuals and groups, again, varying levels of awareness on these people's parts, but what I'm aware that is happening more frequently than perhaps it did in the past is that some people do awaken, and their world is rocked, and they are shaken to their core because they realize the depth of that deception that has been operating. So I just felt very directed to speak to this. Again, it's not my favorite subject whatsoever. I like to talk about I like to talk about, the things that we choose and our sovereignty, and that at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And so there is a way to remember that you were, created free. You were born into this world free, and you are meant to live free. And that freedom can seem, when you are in the midst of this, like especially when you have created a life that is very tied into this one dimension of who you are in terms of our earthly existence. When you have put everything into creating a very nice picture of what life is, whether that be, it's usually a combination, through your work in the world, through your relationships, your family identity, the roles that you play publicly and externally or project, and the good works that you do, and other ways that you show up in a way that is you believe has influence and power and persuasion. And usually, in most cases, people see themselves in those roles that they have self-created and or have been co-created with, sometimes without their knowing, and initially with these linked, this matrix of illusion. When you do that, and then you realize, usually it comes when you feel personally compromised or trapped in this system, and you kind of feel, or sense, even if you don't see that you feel like there's no way out, you can't breathe. A lot of people are having great anxiety, and it does shake your world. And I've really seen this from afar, mostly, but with some individual situations, and from the more systemic things that are happening right now in terms of restructuring, or the falling, more accurately, the falling away of structures, in many cases. So I hope I'm making sense. I know I didn't plan this. I'm just trying to say what I'm been guided to share. I'm not suggesting that you go try to, again, this is the worst thing I think that can happen. And I see this happening all the time with, in terms of people who do talk about this. Okay, well then let's go investigate and let's find out how this manipulation has happened, and let's expose it, and let's, and you know what, there's value in that, and that is happening naturally, and it will happen, and there's value to the people who do sincerely feel called to play a role in that. But if, for us, each person individually, in terms of your soul growth and in terms of understanding the whole of who you are and showing up and loving yourself enough to say enough. Because I'm telling you that the heavens will move to support you, that you will have all you need. It may not be without pain. And there may be a little, some shock waves, and there may be a cost associated with that. But your freedom, the love that you are, and why you are here, and what you are here to bring forth, and the truth of who you are, is more powerful than you have. Like, you do not have any idea how powerful that is. The truth and the love are far more powerful than anything that anybody has against you. And it is, the love and the truth will stand the test of time. It will survive. And that love and truth will free so many other people. It can be no other way. And the love of God that surpasses all understanding, the peace of Christ, the peace that Jesus, when he was embodied on the earth, not only spoke about, but embodied, and the peace and grace that he imparted because he was willing to stand in the gap and to be the love that he was, and to allow things to unfold, was, is still available to each one of us. And by the way, so my background is Christianity, and I am a follower of Jesus, but this is true for other other great spirits through time, and you are a great spirit. We all are great spirits, and we are here simply to be who we are, and in that being who we are, and in loving ourselves through any ways that we have been duped, through any ways that we have made wrong turns, through any ways that we have acted in an abhorrent manner that is not consistent with who we are. And we are so afraid for other people to see us, because we are essentially afraid, many of us, I don't know what this is for everybody, but many of us are essentially afraid that we are not worthy, and that we will not be loved, and that we will be cast aside, and that we would then not be worthy of God's love. And there is nothing that could be further from the truth. You are as you are, whoever you are. If you are Satan himself, you, in my understanding of the love of God, the love of this universe, although I do prefer the word God, is far, far more vast. It is the substance from which we are created. It is life itself. And we are here, each one of us, for life, for love, to experience the play of light. And it's all a play of light, all of it, including the parts that I'm talking about that I have no love for. It's all a play of light, because it all will be restored to the light that it was and is. And all that has been made into something it is not, and there are many things in our world like this, all of that will be reconciled, and the parts that are not true will be stripped away if necessary, or or fall away naturally. And so I am asking you with this video, wherever you are and whoever you are, to simply remember today that who you are cannot be taken from you. Who you are, the truth of that, it may not be all of these things that you have created in your world. And it may be that you are afraid of people, if people knew the truth about, what had happened, who you are, how you've been naive or complicit in some cases, how you have played the game, how you have compromised your own self or your values to keep things going and sustain something, sometimes for reasons you don't understand. And you're afraid that there's no way out. And I'm here to tell you that out is the only way. And that out begins within. It begins by you coming back to you. By you taking a stand for the fact that you, the connection between you and your creator, or you and this universe, you and love, you and light, true, honest light, the substance of all things, cannot be broken. Nobody is a mediator between you and that. There is no separation between you and that. You are that. And you are. And there is you. And you are an expression of the one great love, the one true light, this one life that is eternal, that is limitless, that is infinite. And there will be grace that rises up to meet you, and the way will open up. Jesus used to teach that the way is always opening up. And it happens most miraculously when we dare to take a single step, when we step onto the path, when we say yes to our life. And by that, I do not mean this self-created life, all of these things that we have so neatly put in place. By that, I mean this moment, and this moment, and this moment. And here now, there is life. And here now, I receive that life. And here now, I step onto the path and I offer my life, and not in a self-sacrificing way, because there is no more need for that. None. But rather, in a way that simply says, here I am. Here am I. I am here. And you may feel at times small and insignificant. But when you keep saying, here I am, and when you keep saying, I love you to yourself, and you see others through the eyes of love, and when you take one step, and when you take your time to rest beside the still waters, and when you walk in the green pastures, and you keep saying, here I am, here am I, how can I be of service? And that begins by being present to who you are and all that is, and understanding there is nothing that can separate you from the love of God. Go read that. I believe it's Romans 8. Google it. Sorry, I'm just not awake enough right now to know my passages, but nothing can separate you from the love of God. Not any human system, not any fear, not anybody else's agenda. And I'm going to leave it there. I may speak to this more. I do feel that I will be creating a series of videos to speak more directly to certain ways that this is played out. I'll leave that for a separate video. I want today, just whoever is watching this, I want you just to take some time, okay, to remind yourself of who you are, to put your hand on your heart, to close your eyes, and to ask God to help you to have the courage and the strength and the knowing that you are not alone, and there is no too deep, and there is no too far, and there is no way out. There's just not. And again, the way out begins when you go within, and when you understand the truth of who you are that is still there. You may think it's gone. You may think you're just a shell, and that it's the illusion, you've lost yourself in your own game, which may be true. But you are there. And we are here together. And this time is nothing short of a miracle. And the choice is love. And the choice is you. And the choice is now. And the time is now. And we're going to get through this. And it's going to be beautiful.